Do it, you little coward. Answer the question.
I've never had a sexually transmitted illness, lost soul. That's my answer.
Okay. What do you understand by the phrase, the laws of motion of the capitalist system?
Oh, shit.
That's definitely a phrase Marx uses.
Yeah.
The laws of motion of the capitalist system. Well, it just seems to be like a reflection of exactly how value, like Socrates said, influences not only extraction of capital from workers, but also how it ties into the behavior of a market. Now, I maintain that I don't think, obviously, value and price are one and the same, but I'm open to seeing how those tie in from somebody like Socrates or Swish or Young.
Equilibrium price.
Nobody cares about the liberal theory values.
It seems to me...
Alright, Young, you want to say that to my face? I'll fucking fight you. Naked.
I will physically thrash you.
Naked, though.
I think that answer wasn't really very good, Pogan. I wanted a general meaning for the phrase, and you're starting to talk about value and price and other things that aren't.
You weren't up to par, Pogan.
Not up to par at all. Just a general description of it. What does it mean to you?
Rise to lost souls standard, Pogan. Immediately, or I'll get mad.
I'll be right back.
He's running away.
Oh, fuck.
I have to answer the door.
Well, it's still sort of my open question, so that if Marx's determination, understanding of what value is not market price and it's not equilibrium price, but some other thing, then I don't understand, and I'm trying to understand how it has any connection to the marketplace.
What do you know of value, Brenda? As Marx used it.
Values are things that I value, as far as I can understand it.
Marx uses it.
Well, as he uses it.
Actually,
Brenda!
No, go ahead, Lost.
I think it actually simply means value in a very common way. In the chapter when Marx brings it up, he talks first about use value of a commodity. He introduces the commodity and talks about the use value of a commodity. And he says that use value has to do with the physical properties of the commodity and the usage to which the consumer will put it.
It's utility, basically.
Utility.
Yeah. Well, don't use the word utility here because now you're
not in the marginal
utility.
utilities.
With the neoclassical use of utility.
Yeah, but clearly I'm not doing that.
Yeah, in the folk sense. Yeah. Utility in the folk sense.
I thought we were talking about value in the folk sense, so utility in the folk sense.
And then Marx introduces the term exchange value, which is, it seems to me, equivalent to price. How much of one commodity will exchange for another commodity? And if you're doing it in barter, then you're trading physical commodities. Once you go to a monetary system, then you translate that into a unit of price, which the capitalist would call a unit of value. And that's the measure for the yardstick that you use to measure all other commodities. And that's very efficient. Then he introduces the term value as a third, totally separate concept. And what I took that to mean was simply value in a very colloquial sense.
No, he defines it there. Do you remember how he defined value?
I think it defines it.
He defines it as socially necessary labor time. That's what value is to Marx. That's it.
That's how value is measured.
Yeah, that's true. One thing that, well, I don't know what the reasons are specifically because I'm just not familiar enough with the literature. But I think exchange value on Marx is not it's not taken to be necessarily market price, as in, like I've heard it said and read, I guess, but not any reasons for it, I guess, that I'm aware of, that exchange value can be a price, but it, like, I guess, oughtn't be a price necessarily, or something like that. So that may be something interesting to look up.
And
well, the thing that Marx notes, well, I gotta get going like very soon, like 2 minutes. But one of the things that Marx notes about price is that any particular price could be arbitrary. Like nothing stops me from pricing like a Bic pen at $1 billion, and that would be the price. And that's going to be irrelevant to the analysis. And that's why we bring up equilibrium prices, because given that prices can be established like pseudo arbitrarily, something seems to be what they're fluctuating around, and that's what we're ballparking.
Yeah, the thing that it's fluctuating around is the exchange value, and that's what.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So Marx does not think exchange value is the price of a commodity at all.
Well, I think it can be, right? Because, like, the point is that, like, for
it's
instance,
not identical to.
Yeah,
to
right.
price.
Hello, I'm
That's what
back.
I meant.
So,
But I think it can be, right? Because I think exchange value is the exchange rate between commodities, right? And
so
one thing that's a commodity, I think, on Marxism is money. I think Marx, has a monetary theory that's like a commodity theory of money, basically.
so my
understanding. That's only going to be in financialized economics. It's not going to be true in like during the primitive acquisition of capital. That's not the case.
What's not the case? That money is a commodity?
Money is a commodity.
What?
No, I'm not sure. Okay.
You have to have a financialized economy before you can do that, or at least something. There's like I forgot the exact. Oh, I got some mask. I gotta get off that.
Okay.
So as I understand socially necessary labor time, suppose I have a factory, and it takes me 10 hours. Takes the factory 10 hours to produce something that people want. I don't know what it is, a computer. But then I have another factory, and it takes them 200 hours to produce a handcrafted computer it's not using modern assembly line techniques. It's all handcrafted, but it's absolutely identical with the mass-produced computer. And so Marx would say that the 190 hours extra it takes to produce the second product is wasted because it's not socially necessary labor time, right? Do you understand did I explain that well, or did I not?
I think that that's meant, as far as I know. Go ahead.
So you have one product that takes X amount of time and it's produced, mass produced. Then you have another product which is hand produced, takes an extraordinary amount of time, but is identical. It has no other. It isn't like a special handcrafted thing. It's identical with the mass-produced item, right? Mm-hmm. And so then that extra time, that extra labor time that it takes to produce the second good would be considered wasted because it's excess socially necessary labor time. That's my understanding. I'm wondering if I have that correct.
But I don't understand the excess thing. I understood everything.
Well, because the handcrafted one takes, I don't know, some arbitrary number, twice as long, 10 times as long to make, right? To make the same product.
Well, you're saying that it's like a hypothetical, they're like physically identical. The only difference is that one takes longer.
Yeah, it's not it's not a handcraft. It's not an heirloom thing that has special value because it's handcrafted. It's identical with the mass-produced.
But it just takes longer to. Yeah, I guess. On the theory, I think that would mean they have different value. I guess.
Well,
that is.
My understanding is that Marx would say that the second product has wasted labor because it's excess socially necessary labor time. because
I'm not sure about that.
because
It's not socially necessary labor time. It's socially unnecessary labor time. That's
But
being
necess-
used.
But necessary there just means the time that it takes to employ it, to reproduce it. Like socially necessary just means like mean amount of time needed, right?
yeah, but the reason it
Something like that.
takes the second factory so long is because they really like their employees. They let them fuck around.
Yeah.
They let them take 3-hour breaks every 15 minutes. All those kinds of or they pay way too much because the guy doesn't care. He pays way too much for raw materials, or he just doesn't use the latest labor technology to produce it, or whatever it is. Whatever it is. So that would be wasted labor time, right? It'd be
I'm not sure. Like, I mean, maybe, probably it's like, I think he would, like, if, I don't know the guy, but he would probably agree that that's like inefficient or like probably like in some sense wasted labor. I just don't know if it has anything to do with the socially necessary thing.
But Marx said that labor had like a dual character to it. There's concrete and abstract labor. And you have, like, I forget how he defined them exactly.
I think concrete labor is the actual machinery that you would have in a plant, right? That's concretized.
No.
Is concretized labor, isn't it? Because people had to make the presses and stuff that you use in your factory.
No, you're thinking of it too.
Okay.
Like,
all right.
That's
Sorry.
employing constant capital.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's right. That's
variable.
right. You're right. That's constant capital. Yes, you're right.
Constant.
One of the problems that happens in these conversations is that the subject is discussed abstractly. And what you're missing when you do that is that this has to be explicitly about a going concern, the economy as a going concern. And therefore, you have more than one producer, or manufacturer, let's say firm, producing goods of the same sort. So if one is producing it at a higher cost level, then the second one will undersell them and drive the first one out of business. That's a trend of the marketplace in capitalism that has to be assumed when you're talking about these things. So Marx has two kinds of surplus value. He has relative surplus value and absolute surplus value. And relative surplus value is when you, say, introduce a new technology that allows you to produce with less labor and therefore at lower cost, assuming that the machine is cheaper than the workers who you're replacing. And that's only a temporary thing because other firms will copy that new technology or else they won't be able to compete. And that's a trend, a tendency that one can observe in the capitalist economies. The problem with saying the labor theory of value says this and the other thing is that all of these circumstances are changing constantly, so that you never have the kind of simple example which makes the concepts clear in the book. In the real world, things change. Product lines go out of business and are replaced by new product lines. You know, maybe at some point in the future, profit will go to zero, but right now, you know, that's not likely.
Well, do you think the Marxists? Oh, I'm not sure about this, I guess, but that like I thought that what mattered is that the rate of profit tended to zero, I guess. like it seems unlikely that like capitalism could ever survive to the point if it hypothetically arrived at zero. You know, like probably wouldn't.
The economists, the classical economists, talked about a zero profit as being the normal rate of profit, so that there is profit in a firm that's producing at a zero rate of profit because it's the normal rate of profit. So it's the cost of production plus the normal rate of profit.
No, but I was talking about Marx.
And I think, well, Marx is a classical economist, and Marx picks up that concept as well.
No, but I was talking about, you know, like you said something like it may be the case that the rate of profit will like arrive at zero or something.
That it won't arrive at zero. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But like, I guess, is that because you don't think it trends towards zero, or because it's if it trended near enough to zero, like the system would like implode as it is without arriving to zero?
Well, there is a tendency for the rate of profit to fall, and that's due to competition. But that has a big ceteris paribus clause. You're saying all else being equal in a competitive marketplace, the rate of profit will fall. But all else is never equal. And pricing, as Galbraith was one of the first to talk about this a lot in the 60s and 70s, was that pricing of most goods in the modern capitalist society was monopoly pricing, was firms controlling their pricing. They weren't really subject to competition.
So do you think that all these charts that sort of modern, I guess, Marxist economists point to when, well, I guess those that want to defend the following rate of profit prediction, you know, when they do empirical work on this stuff, like, you think they're correct, or like they're somehow like having like some methodological error that leads them to have results that point to it being a falling rate of profit even in real sort of contemporary economies?
I can't respond to that because I haven't looked at those charts.
Okay.
I'd have to see them and look at what their assumptions were and their methodology of how they came to this conclusion.
I think another problem with assuming that rates of profit would disappear is to ignore the fact that every factory and company that opens takes like a risk, and so they would factor in the risk in the profit margin they expect to get.